Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at the best champions for solo queue, and remember, this is my opinion. These are the guys that I think are really good in solo queue right now with the current meta and how the game is. Let's not waste any time though, let's jump straight in at the top of the map as always, and the first one is going to be Malphite. And Malphite is really like anti-meta right now, like anti-carry top laners. Most of the top laners right now are these carry top laners like Irelia, Jax, Riven, these kind of people, and Malphite shuts them down really well. He has an attack speed slow, he stacks armor, and he still does damage. He also has a really good engage and a really good roam, kind of because of his engage or because of his ultimate, and he has that switch, like if you see a good chance to go in, then you can just instantly flip it and go. The other good thing is your damage even scales with armor, so your W increases your armor even more, giving you more damage, and it gets to the point where the enemy just can't kill you, but you can kill them. Mid game, you're going to be providing that engage, you're going to have some damage, and you're very hard to kill, as we said, because no one really has any armor pen yet, but you have a lot of armor against them. So even though he can affect the entire map with his roaming ultimates, he's not really a carry laner. Like if your team is behind, then it's hard to physically kill everyone and actually carry. You're kind of more the type that is insanely good at letting your team carry, and if you get behind in lane, that's going to be kind of hard because the enemy builds damage before you can get armor, and then you're in trouble. So this is where it gets a little bit weird. Okay, so the best top laners right now are actually Fiora, Garen, Darius, and Gangplank. Like these four are in a class of their own, and they are really strong, but the problem is they are banned all the time. Now I don't really see the point of me talking about those champions if you're honestly just never going to get to play them. So yes, those four are the best, but instead of mentioning them, I'm going to go with this Malphite and also Irelia instead. Irelia is basically like the best carry top laner and has been for a long time. She hasn't really been changed very much, but it's just where the meta comes in and out. Like she isn't very good against full tanks, but she is really good against other carry laners. The first thing is she only needs Trinity Force to do some serious damage. Like as soon as she gets that, she gets a huge boost in power and can really do some damage. One reason that I like playing Irelia personally is that she can win pretty much any lane matchup if you play it correctly, and there's a lot of room to outplay your opponent with your kit. Part of that is her stun, and her stun is bloody overpowered. Like it's insane how good it is, and it can really turn a fight around if you use it properly. The other thing I really want to mention is how flexible she is, and no, I'm not being pervy before you guys think that. It's just more of like a flexible in her build, so she can build more damage after Triforce, or you can get magic resist against AP, you can get armor against AD, and she's going to do well with any of those options. While Irelia is really good, the kind of problem she has is that she has no real gap closer after her Q, and so once that's been used, if you flash away, she can't really do much, and she does have a high skill cap, so she's going to take some practice to get used to. So moving on to the junglers, and let me just preface this with there are tons of different junglers that are good right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one that is kind of a more farm orientated early jungler, and another one who is more of a ganking orientated jungler, and that way it'll kind of cater to both playstyles, I guess. So the first one, the farming one, is going to be Diana, and Diana has pretty good clear, she stays healthy, and she's relatively fast as well. Now this is actually especially good because it means that we can farm and we can get 6 as soon as possible. Actually, this is going to sound so weird, but one of my favorite films, Dodgeball, has this line which sums this up perfectly. Diana before level 6 is about as useful as a cock flavored lollipop. Like she does absolutely nothing at all. After level 6 though, she does become really useful, like a normal flavored lollipop, I guess. What is a normal flavor, like orange or strawberry or something like that, I guess? Like she has her ultimate to gap close, a huge amount of burst, a shield, and her E to keep the enemy in place. That has got to be like one of the worst analogies I think I've ever used, but the point is, okay, she literally flips a switch from being this useless thing to killing you. Now apart from her damage, she has good engage, she builds kind of defensively while doing loads of damage, and that is going to make you a powerhouse later. Like really, should you be able to one-shot people while being semi-tanky? Probably not, but there you go. Moving on to the early pressure jungler, and this is kind of a weird one actually because he's also very strong later, but we're going to look at Xin Zhao. Now Xin Zhao is great right now for solo queue, mainly because he has this early pressure and an insane late game. Like his mid game is kind of average, I guess, if you don't get ahead, but once you get a few items and your Devourer sated, then you're going to become unstoppable. Xin is really one of the only Devourer junglers right now who is good at ganking, and that is really what separates him, I guess, from the rest. Not only only are you going to reach this late game beast mode, but you're able to help your team early and hopefully get them ahead as well. The final thing is he's really good in the current meta as well. He has the damage to kill people, but he has this tanky part to absorb the enemy's damage, and that is really what is dominating at the moment, like that combination. The only downside is going to be his mid game. At this point you only really have damage, so you're pretty easy to kill, and you don't really have enough damage to kill people quickly yet, and you aren't tanky enough to last very long. Moving on to the mid lane, the second one is going to be Lux, and I've been saying Lux is good for a while now, and actually fun fact, did you know that the first time I ever got Diamond 1, it was with Lux and Graves? Okay, well that was a really useless fact, but that is out the way now, so she's super safe, good lane phase, great pick potential, and a really good team fight. Actually, let's just go through the phases really quickly to show you what I mean. So lane phase, she can farm well and clear quickly with her E. Her E is also very long range and a big AoE, meaning it's easy to harass the enemy without taking any damage in return. Mid game you'll have a few items, and this is where you have the potential to just one-shot someone with your combo. That means you ward, you wait for the enemy to walk near you, and you just delete them. It's really good for taking objectives and making the game a 4v5. In actual team fights, you have a huge amount of AoE with your E, a snare to keep yourself and others safe, and an ultimate that can reach the backlines. That is a lot, but if that wasn't even enough, then you also have a huge shield that is seriously underrated. Like if you put that across your entire team, it's gonna be amazing. The downsides with Lux can be played around, but they're pretty big. So she is immobile and kind of weak to ganks and kind of weak to assassins as well. Like she is very, very squishy. I'm pretty sure actually she has one of the lowest, if not the lowest base healths out of any champion. And if you're gonna get hit, then you're probably gonna die. Now part of that is why I ranked Ahri over Lux, is because Ahri is actually pretty good against Lux. So you can dive in with your ultimate and Lux can't really do too much about it. Ahri is a great mix of assassin and mage. She's kind of the best of both worlds, which is why she's been my #1 for absolute months. She has a good lane phase, good kill potential, good team fight. She can either sit back with some cooldown reduction and throw out her Q a lot, or she can dive in quickly and kill someone. Ahri has a huge amount of damage and she's very safe, but really to sum her up, like she can win her lane, she can win others lanes, and she's just really good all around mid laner, and that's kind of why she's on top, because she's good at everything. Now while I say good at everything, obviously there are a couple of weaknesses, I guess, like, but these are very tiny things. Like she's very skill shot reliant, so if you miss your Q and your E, you're not really gonna do that much damage, and she's kind of weak against tanks, but there aren't really tanks around right now. So let's move on to the AD carries. Best role by far, obviously. I wonder how many times in a row I'm gonna make that joke before you guys have had enough, but anyway, so the first one is gonna be Vayne. Vayne is in a really weird spot right now actually, because she isn't doing as well in the lane phase anymore, but she's still one of the only AD carries who can actually stand up and do well against the other meta champions in other roles, like mainly the top and the junglers. So her lane phase is okay, she can play aggressively and defensively and still do well in both, and that is a really big point actually. If you don't really know what I mean, or you don't know how you can use your kit aggressively and defensively, then you really should go and watch my in-depth Vayne video. Like you need to learn how you can use her kit in both ways, and it'll actually make your lane phase a lot stronger. Her mid game is actually quite strong, and it just gets stronger as the game goes on, and she's gonna shred tanks and squishy targets alike. I've always said that I really think Vayne is one of the few people who can actually carry a game by herself, and a big part of that is because she's very strong 1v1. Like even if you get behind in lane a little bit, if you find the enemy AD carry alone, you're probably gonna come out on top. One of the problems that is kind of holding her back a little bit at the moment is she's very weak to AoE damage that isn't actually meant for her or like aimed at her. So she has to be quite close to do stuff in team fights, and that means there's just a bigger risk of random spells hitting her and bringing her low. So I'm probably going to get some hate for this one, but I'm going to put at #1 Draven. So Draven is not easy to play, and actually funny enough I'm probably going to get some hate for saying that as well, but he is actually hard to play to start with. If you've never played Draven or you can't really play him, then just practice him in some normal games first. Don't just pick him and expect to do well. Honestly, if you want to do that, then pick Jinx, because she's also really good right now and a lot easier to play. But anyway, Draven is basically the answer to the meta right now for AD carries, and because of that I'm going to say he's the best AD carry you can play. So what I mean by that is the game is kind of turning into this mid-game focus again, and that's not really where AD carries thrive, but for Draven this is fine. He has damage early, which slowly ramps up and up throughout the game, and his mid-game is great, but his late game is even better with those late game crits. One of the reasons that he is good mid-game is because he can build a Bloodthirster early, like either his first item or his second item, to keep himself alive against people who dive onto him, which with his Q actually heals for a ton. I guess the biggest things are that he can win win his lane, he can snowball really hard with his passive, and he gets his items faster than anyone else, which helps him deal with threats in teamfights. Now saying this though, the other thing is that even if he doesn't get ahead, the damage from his Q makes up for that, and it still lets him stand a chance of doing really well, especially with the attack speed steroid on his W. So last role then, supports, and supports are kind of two playstyles like the jungle, so I'm going to have one from the aggressive side and one from the passive. Now the aggressive side, Blitzcrank, he's the best playmaking support. He has one job, okay, and he does it very well. That job is really just to set up kills. You hook people and you kill them. He doesn't have much utility, he doesn't really have anything to help you defensively, but his kit is amazing for going aggressive. Lane phase, if you get hooks, then you're likely to get kills. First hook maybe just summoner spells, but second hook they are boned. Mid game when you're ahead, you just push and you throw hooks out until you get someone. Like trust me, eventually you will get one, and that's all you need. This is another big thing, like even when you're behind, you are actually still useful. If you manage to get a good hook, then you can turn a game around, and that's actually a lot more than most supports can do. Especially with aggressive supports, they kind of become useless when they're behind, and while Blitz kind of does, I guess, he still has that chance to carry. The biggest problem with Blitzcrank has always been if you miss your hook at any point, you are useless. Like you don't offer anything else, so it's a very all or nothing playstyle. Final one is going to be Soraka, and this spot has always belonged to Janna, and if I'm being honest, I think it's very close between the two, but especially at lower elo, I think Soraka is better. Soraka is legit the most annoying, irritating champion you can play against. She is the biggest cockblock you will ever meet, and like you'll just be about to kill someone, right, and then suddenly nope, heal, and they're back to full health. Like that is disgusting. In the lane phase, this is even worse actually. Like you can't really trade at all. You can try and kill Soraka, but if you mess it up and you don't actually kill her, then you're pretty much boned until you base again and have to heal, because the enemy AD carry can just trade for free. This is why I'm going to put her as the passive support. You will carry very bad AD players, you will keep them alive when they really shouldn't be, and make up for their crappy lane phase by healing any damage they take. Well, there you go, that wraps up my best champions for solo queue right now, and I hope you guys enjoyed the list. Remember to leave your picks down below, and just because I didn't say your champion doesn't mean that bad at all. These are just the ones I think are really good for solo queue. Remember to like and subscribe, and as always, I'll catch you in my next video.